Welcome to Backyard Wellness, a show that tries to bring you healthy options from the region, community, and even your own backyard. And this certainly will hit it, because we're going to be talking about women farmers and an art show that's here in Winona at the Winona County Historical Museum. Is that
Society?
Society.
Otherwise known as the
Downtown.
Winona History Center.
Okay, all right.
A little easier.
Yeah, and with me is Julie Johnston, who is the artist exceptional for this show. So, welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you, Lois.
This is so
great.
fun.
It is.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on the show and
really
you
grateful.
decided to do it.
Yes. Well, I'm grateful to you for highlighting my art and these women farmers.
Thank you, thank you. But how did you get into art? I mean, you started out, I mean, when did that start? I mean,
Well, from the time I was young, I loved art, and I always thought I would be an artist. And I went to college. Well, I started at a university, and left that to go to art school in Chicago. And then life happens. I got married, had children, got a job, and worked a career, and for about 36 years, I didn't do any art. So once I moved to Winona, I got to pick it up. I started back to St. Mary's to see if I could still draw. Ended up teaching a semester of life drawing there for them, and
really?
Just fell in love with doing art again and don't want to stop.
So you picked up your passion.
I did.
It started out as a wee one, and now here we go again.
Here we go.
Yes. And then now you came to this project. How did that happen?
Well, this was very close to my heart. I have a background in floral industry, horticulture. I started in greenhouses in my early 20s, and then managed a series of flower shops, owned a flower shop, and then got into wholesale. And I was in a farm community in southwest Iowa for a number of years with my flower shop. And there's a woman farmer I met there, Denise O'Brien, who began Women Food and Agriculture Network, which now is across the country. And she comes to visit me on her way to Moses, the organic conference, Midwest Organic Conference, almost every year. She's also worked with women farmers in Ghana, Afghanistan, but she has a farm with her husband, Larry Harris, Rolling Acres Farm in Atlantic, Iowa. So we would talk, and I just thought, I really want to give women farmers a voice. It's so sort of underheard. They're such amazing networkers and detail workers, and they raise their families and they farm. And so I kind of ran it by Denise, and she said, oh, that would be so great. So I've thought about it for a few years, and it would bring my two passions together, painting people, painting landscapes.
Wow. I mean, when I think of farmers, I always think of male farmers. I know women are at their side, or maybe in the farmhouse or something like that. But this really, your show, and I hope we're going to really show it, is how it brings the woman on the farm.
It does. The big pastel behind you is Lorraine Reddick, who I believe just turned 88, has been on her farm for a long, long time. And when I interviewed her, she said, no, I was just a farm wife. I just did chores and had the family garden to feed the family with, did the canning, all the cooking. And I was like, well, what do you mean you did chores? What did you do? Well, I milked 30 to 40 cows every day. I did all the vegetable growing, all this. And I was like, no, you are a farmer. Oh, no, I didn't drive tractor. And I said, is that the only thing you didn't do on the farm? And she said, pretty much.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that amazing?
See, that's how we got our mindset, that
exactly.
It's all about a man.
And in my research, I found out as well that when the census would come through, you could only, on a farm, you could only say one person was a farmer. And it was always usually the head of the household, the man, who would say it.
Right.
So that began that mindset.
Yes.
I'm not a farmer. It's my husband. And also in my research, I found out, I think in the Midwest, 1863 was the first time a woman immigrant that came here and quite a few of them did, but this was the first recorded that I could find in her diary, that she came here and got farmland and had to work tutoring other people's children, becoming a teacher, doing ironing, doing cooking to pay for people to build a farmhouse on her land so that she could farm it. So that was really interesting as well.
So
there have
then
always been women.
She wasn't named a farmer then? She was named something else?
Not until she began to farm, I assume.
Oh my.
But yeah, it's very interesting.
The history of it. Yeah.
These strong women have always been there.
Right. So here you have a show. The name of the show is the
Rooted in the Land.
And then who support, how, you know, you got a grant.
I got a grant from Southeast Minnesota Arts Council to help me, yes, with with materials and just my idea to do it, to support me. And so these are the women and where they are that I painted. So I was sticking to Southeast Minnesota. Ramona Reddick is in Fountain City, Wisconsin. She was one of the farmers that I used I did a few paintings as samples, like this is what I want to do. And she was gracious enough to let me come out and follow her around while she fed her chickens.
Okay, okay.
And her mother's farm is in Winona. And that's Ramona in the middle of that painting as well. So she helps.
All right, so, but this, of course, isn't all the farmers that you know about.
There were so many. These women are just amazing networkers. And every time I would visit one, I'd get like 6 more. And I really wrote 6 farmers into my grant and ended up painting 9. So, and I had to finally say no, because I could have followed them forever. They were so interesting. But I had a project to do.
Yes, and there was a limit in your time.
Yes, paintings take time.
They take time. And how long was this grant?
It was for a year, but not quite a year, because I had to have this event before the year is up. So everything had to be painted, framed, the bios written, all the visits done, yes, before the year was up. Yes.
A one-man show.
A one-man show. And my hope is to continue painting women farmers and going to other areas in the Midwest and getting some urban farmers, some more diversity in the women. I really, in this show, I have from Bethany, who is like 19, up to Lorraine, who's 88. I have an Amish woman farmer whose husband agreed to let me follow her around, yes. And so the diversity is mostly age-wise, so.
Well, let's look at that a little bit. So show me the diversity a little bit. Okay. Because we can walk me through.
Bethany's our youngest woman farmer.
This is so cute with the little piglets, too.
Oh, yes, and this little pig just loved her. And so she had pigs, chickens, runner ducks. She sells at the Winona Farmers Market her duck eggs. Oh. And the pigs, I think, were more for the family, and she has, I can't remember if they have, I believe, like 10 children, and so Bethany's the youngest. And some of the other children have their own animals they take care of as well, but they help on the family farm too. And this is her mother, Esther, who's picking calendula in their garden. And she makes ointment, which we have for sale here. We'll look at later.
Okay.
In the gift shop. And this is Esther again in her organic apple orchard. She and her husband, Harley, have the farm. And this is her granddaughter, Simona. So we were out in the orchard, and they were showing me the apples, and we were eating them. And then right after I took this picture, and well, this is kind of a composite, but as soon as we were done eating our apples, the sky opened up, rain poured down, and Bethany had to drive down in the car and rescue my camera and me. And it was great timing.
So that's how you did it? You did photos and then went home?
I followed them around. I did hundreds of photos. I'm not a photographer. I wish I was. And I'm not used to working from photos. So that was another part of the grant, was for me to figure out how to paint from photos in life. I took notes. It's really hard to work from life when you're following women farmers around. They don't hold still.
No, I don't think they can.
They can't.
Oh, there's so much going on.
Some of the young women farmers that I approached with families that I really wanted to paint and do drawings of just couldn't even take one more thing. They were so busy.
So you kind of had to be a shadow instead of...
I was a shadow, yes.
Try to be in their way or anything.
Right. Most of the interviews were on site. Some of them were graciously gave me time to go in their living rooms or stop and talk to me in the field. Some I had to just call later and follow up with because they're just so busy. And of course, during the winter, when they have a little more downtime, they're doing, some of them, arts, crafts, getting ready for the next year or still selling things at farmers market. I was busy painting, so.
Busy time for all.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah.
So that was the youngest one. Is there an oldest one?
The oldest one would be Lorraine, and you can see she's here in the field with her cane.
Oh, the cane.
Yeah, she's got her cane in there, and this was the cauliflower. Her daughter Ramona and her daughter Marilyn come and help when they can. Lorraine also had a large family, and so her son is one of her sons is currently buying the farm, but she is in the farmhouse, still does this huge kitchen garden. She still cans and freezes and cooks, and the kids come and help her when they can. So it's kind of still a family garden. There was a painting I really wanted to do of her, and maybe I still can, and later they gave me Brussels sprouts too. But she's picking up a cauliflower that's done and has this beautiful smile on her face. And then later, these were the Brussels sprouts they were weeding. They brought me some of those so I could taste.
Hand-weeded.
Hand-weeded, which is remarkable. A lot of these women do crops that are very labor-intense that you don't hear about maybe from, like, it seemed to me anyway, their husbands do a lot of the larger, bigger picture, and some of the women who are single or widowed, if their sons are taking over the farms, they don't really want to do these labor-intense lettuces, hand-weeded things. They look at a bigger picture maybe, but the women don't seem afraid of all of that intensity or detail.
That's the intricacy that they add to farming then.
Well, one of the interesting parallels that I found between being an artist and a woman farmer was not only do people or these farmers create products, but they have to market them. Yes. And one of the threads that ran through every woman farmer was that we need to educate the public about these local products, because a lot of people that come to these markets say, well, why is this so high? Why are things priced so high? And they're really not priced high. And the value of getting that, knowing where your food comes from, or the painter who painted your art, and you have local art and you have local goods, like these creams and other things that the women farmers have for sale here, take an amazing amount of time. They don't have the chemicals. They don't, I don't think people realize how much time something takes.
I don't think so either, because if they see a lavender oil in a big box store, they don't realize that the lavender oil has been processed and blended, and even that's a small amount of lavender oil in that. You know, so it's really, actually you're getting a product for less money by getting it local, because you're getting a more pure form.
Exactly.
And it's going to be more effective.
Right.
Because like here, the brushes for Miss Reddick, I mean, that's right from the farm to the table, and hasn't traveled all the way from California to your table.
Yeah. The taste is so much
better,
too.
It should be, because it has more nutrients in it and everything. So yeah, you're getting more bang for your buck, actually, by getting it more local.
Absolutely. I get my eggs from, well, Ramona's on another side. I get a lot of eggs from her or some of the other women farmers, and when I have people who come from the cities to visit me, they're like, why are your eggs so good? Because they're not traveling so far. They're outside, free range.
Right.
You know, the meat's the same way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying that too because I'm doing a series on regenerative agriculture, and this fits in with it too. And that's why I was so excited that we were going to be meeting, because when I told some of the other people, in fact, some of them I think were not highlighted in your show, they said, oh yes, this is what it's all about.
It is. I have, actually, Teresa has Heritage Hindsight Farm, and she grows heritage varieties of red wattle pigs and Highland cows, and she has heritage chickens and ducks and all kinds of things. And she and her husband have them because they don't do well in captivity. They do much better outside of captivity, in a field, in a pasture. And when I was there, like with the pigs, chickens were walking in and out of the pig pens. She said they don't attack the chickens like some other animals would. They were all like, I don't know, Teresa's like a natural nurturer anyway. She has quite the collection of dogs and cats and ducks, and it was so much fun to go on the farm and see, but she's like throwing the feed over her shoulders, and so strong. And she works off the farm, as does her husband, so they can support this farm. And she gave me some pork chops. And I have to say, I'm not a big meat eater. They were the best thing I ever had. They were amazing. So to get local and to get someone who believes in taking care of the land. Sue in Mabel, Minnesota, has baby doll sheep, a few Finn sheep. She has hickory tree orchard, apple orchard, and pear orchards, and began with her sheep to keep the grass down in the orchards. So and to provide manure, and then she travels. She also works full time. She's a single woman, has the farm herself. Her farmhouse originally was an Amish shop. So she had to basically like insulate, and it was someone who built things there, and they had a wood stove. So she had to turn it into a home, which was also a lot of work. But it is beautiful, and the sunsets there were beautiful. But we were out in the field, and it was a rainy day, and it was just a lot of fun. I had my umbrella, which scared the sheep every time except for one who was very curious.
I mean, this is a farmer's market.
This is the farmer's market. Mary is Amish. She came here from another Amish community with her husband, Amos, and they have a beautiful farm. A lot of times when I got out, of course she has no phone, and a lot of times when I drove out there, she's in rural Lanesboro, so it was a bit of a drive for me. She wouldn't be there because there was a funeral, or one of her many children, 12 children, needed help, or different things. So I sort of shadowed her at a lot of the farmers market, and as you can see, she did these incredible, the canning. She did the garden by herself. She has 10 sons, 2 daughters, so she told me that was kind of sad because the boys helped her husband a lot, and the girls she only got 2 girls to help her take care of the house. She does everything on a wood stove. Her husband and family built the house that they're in. It's quite beautiful. It's a very picturesque farm. She does baking. She'll have breads. She also does quilting, and she has pot holders for sale there too. So just a beautiful array of things. As do some of the women farmers at the market also do canning and baking, not just Mary, but that is a lot of hers, and it's quite beautiful. One morning I got there, I believe it was like 8:30 in the morning, and she forgot I was coming, and she had already been out in the garden, picked all of her organic strawberries, raspberries, had the jam made. It was all canned. The kitchen was spotless, and so we just sat and talked. And so...
Wow.
I know, I thought,
how does anyone do that?
I don't know.
It would take me 2 days or more to do that.
These women are remarkable.
Yes.
I came home and thought, I have no energy. What do I... So anyway,
amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah. My goodness.
I know. She's like, oh, I forgot.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, that's Mary. And Sandy Dietz with Whitewater. She's very well known, I think, in the community. She and her husband, Lonnie, have Whitewater Gardens. in Altura, and Sandy's just a joy to be around. She's very articulate, I think, in community events, and I think the community, a lot of the community know her. So when I was out at her farm, it was just, you know, it was so much fun. She had the first time I went there, I'll never forget, there were 2 goats that were loose, and nobody knew they were out of their fenced-in area. And they came up to greet me, and they were just jumping like little kids, and nobody was at the farmhouse, so they actually led me up to where she was in the greenhouse transplanting.
Like little puppy dogs.
Yes. Yeah, and then
I didn't know they did that.
I didn't either. I didn't either, and she didn't know they were out. She's like, "How'd you find us?" I was like, "The goats." And they were like, "Oh, Lonnie, come, we got to get the goats in." So it was very cute. But this was fun. We were kind of looking at different crops on the farm, and she said, "Oh, let's go see if the winter radishes are ready." And as she was pulling them out of the ground and looked up at me like, "Yes, they are ready."
Oh, it's a beautiful show.
So it was really fun. And Margot has some of her Kardashian dolls over here for sale as well, from things. She had just a beautiful garden. It's Many Hands Farm. She farms with her husband, Jack, and followed her around. She's just such a hard worker. She dug potatoes. I say we, the royal we. I watched. She dug potatoes, and was weeding. But her garden is just so immaculate, and it's all hand done. And then when I saw her gorgeous weavings that she does some quilting, and her downtime. I don't know who has that kind of downtime.
When you say garden, about how big was her garden?
Their gardens are very large. They also have some animals, but extensive. She is at the Rochester and the Wabasha farmers markets, so they have just a vast array of produce. Bonnie, her husband has always worked off the farm. They have a dairy farm, and she ran the dairy farm, raised the kids. She grew a lot of her own food until she told me it just got kind of crazy. She couldn't do it all, so she started bartering with a neighbor who farmed for produce. But now her son they're in a kind of a partnership. I forget what you call it. It's on my blog, I think. But she does all of the book work and all of the managing of the farm. So, and she also mentors young dairy farmers or dairy farmers. And she's very active in that organization as well. And she's just a born networker. I mean, she could have given me she did. She gave me like 2 pages more women farmers' names, which I hope I can get to sometime. Wow. Yes. But it's a facet of farm life that you don't really think about.
No.
So they do the marketing, the bookwork, the growing, the display, the artistic display that they have to do at their markets to entice people to come in as well. I mean, they have a lot of work they do.
Oh, Julie, what are these things?
Well, these are called Kardashian dolls. Kardashian? Yes, Margot makes these from Many Hands Farm, and she said that her daughter named them. So they can be hung as ornaments anywhere. They're just really sweet.
Hang them up in the window or something.
You can hang them in the window, yeah. You can just give them as gifts. They're just wonderful, aren't they? So they're gourds from her farm.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of different tops on them. I love those.
So there's going to be a lot of things like the Kardashian dolls and other things connected to the show.
Yes,
yeah, like what?
Well, we're trying to highlight some of the non-perishable products that the women farmers have to sell. And also just farm things like products, tea towels, dish towels, about the products. I love this bag. I eat local because I can, which, yeah. I love the fact that you can take these to your farmer's market with you, to market. We have some great garden her, farm her, rancher t-shirts. There'll be some jewelry with chicken feathers coming. I don't think that's here yet.
Oh, right.
So, yes, so these women farmers will have products here for the 2 months that the show is up. They're are creams and healing salves made from different things. This one's made from calendula that Esther was picking in the pastel over there. The very same calendula, and she uses a lot of her flowers and herbs besides the baking she does, the canning, the produce, and things in here as well.
That's really great, because the calendula, I've seen it commercially in big box stores. It is not yellow like it should be. Yellow is calendula.
It is, right? And then the beeswax from the beehives. Perfect. And yeah, it's just wonderful. And then I have note cards for sale of the paintings, and I'll have some prints for sale as well. And I believe we'll have some rovings from the sheep. And I'm not even sure of what all else, but we have a lot of farm gifts and fun things that will be souvenirs from the exhibit.
Oh. Well, Julie, this has been a delight. I've really enjoyed this show, and I'm hoping our viewers do too, because this has showed so much about women farmers, and I really appreciate that you've taken the time to go for the grant and all the photos and paintings and everything.
Oh, thank you so much, Lois. I'm really grateful that you did this, and so that we could honor these women, because they work so hard. Yeah.
And that's the story you told. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching Backyard Wellness too.